Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Welcome to the next of our webinars on FSC Trace, FSC's traceability solution. How are we doing for number of people? We might give, I think we should just get started. If we have more people joining, then they will be able to hopefully catch up. And hopefully also you can all see that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, you cannot unmute yourselves or turn your video on. I'm joined this morning by my colleague, Julie Smith, and we are going to give you today a demo of where we are with FSC Trace, which is coming your way very soon. Because this meeting is being recorded, we have also turned off the chat function. So please place questions in the Q&A section. And I think you also there should be able to upvote them. So if you see a question that also you are very interested in, then please just upvote it, and then we will try and come to and answer as many of those questions as possible at the end of today. Also, before I go any further, just a sort of apology in advance. I am recovering from a cold. I sincerely hope my voice will last for the rest of this webinar, but if I need to take a 30-second break at some point just to wet my throat, please excuse me. So, FSC Trace is of course part of the overall infrastructure for FSC's tool set that we're providing our certificate and license holders in aligning for EUDR, although there does now seem to be some potential postponement of that regulation coming into effect. We want to push forward as fast as possible in order to get this working for everybody. So, and traceability, I think, is the absolute heart and the biggest, hardest problem that EUDR poses us. And so getting that solution out there for all of you to start playing with is, I think, a top priority. That said, FSC Trace sits in the middle of several other tools, which just wanted to remind you of. I think this is a slide you've seen before. So FSC Trace is also interacting with our GIS platforms, including the Certified Area Submittal tool and the forthcoming Risk Hub, where you'll be able to find FSC published risk assessments and also upload your own risk assessments. Then there are the digital audit reports for FSC certified forests. So that's specific just to the FM and FMCOC certificates. And then all of this will get pulled together through the power of FSC Trace that delivers the traceability to an aligned reporting tool, FSC aligned reporting for EUDR out the top. And that will generate the due diligence statements to submit into the EU Traces, with an S on the end there, the EU system, and also support your own due diligence reporting efforts that go alongside those due diligence statements. So, as I said a couple of slides ago, mainly what we want to do today is actually do you a demonstration of various functionalities of FSC Trace, and then we will allow time for some Q&A towards the end. But before we get into all of that, just a very quick reminder, what is FSC Trace all about? So it's about traceability, and here we've got what is quite a simple example actually in the forestry sector. So we have a wooden chair made up of components from 4 different forests. And what we want to be able to know is that when that chair is placed on the European market, or whether that's from a European manufacturer or imported from elsewhere, then we need to know where that chair has come from in order that we can do, you can do the due diligence necessary to ensure that there's that chair is deforestation free and also free of forest degradation. So knowing where it comes from, that is the the critical challenge. And I said, actually, this is a relatively simple example because we know that in other subsectors like paper and pulp, in fact, it can get a whole lot more complicated than this. And you could have 100 or more forests contributing to one ream of paper. And I like to joke that if you had to print out your full due diligence report on that ream of paper, it would take more sheets of paper than you've got in that ream. But the point that we're trying to get to with FSC Trace is that a technology solution is scalable. So it doesn't matter whether you've got 2 forests or 200 forests or even 2,000 forests, that same technology solution can scale and deliver what you need out of it. So that's what we're trying to achieve, to be able to know what has contributed to what. So with that all said, I now want to switch to our demo. So let me just end this slideshow. Okay, so we are now looking at FSC Trace, the dashboard. We'll take perhaps a quick look around this and then we'll start doing some things and see how it can work. So what I haven't shown you here actually is to get here, I've logged on already through FSC Connect. And in this case, I'm logged on as an FM certificate called FMCOC, in fact. So there are 2 things you need to do that I've already done here. Well, sort of 3 things, but first, the 2 were really critical on our onboarding steps. And they are to add a product and add a trading partner, and then you can get into doing your first transaction. So that's what the onboarding structure looks like in FSC Trace. And until you've done a product, until you've done a trading partner, you can't really do anything. So let's go and have a look at our products and our trading partners. Here are our, well, one single product. So we've gone for a fairly simple scenario here. And here is my product. We can have a look at it in a little bit more detail. I gave it the very imaginative name, Logs I Sell. In this case, it's a product that I'm selling, and it's that's the FSC product category, W1.1. I actually haven't given an HS code, but of course, if I were doing this for EUDR, then I would want to give it an HS code because HS code is required for EUDR reporting. And I've also defined the species that these logs are. If there were multiple species, I could add further species to this list. But I'm not allowed to add species that, or indeed product categories that are outside my certificate scope. So what FSC Trace does is it goes and looks at what's in my scope, and this particular test certificate has got a very narrow scope, so I can't actually give you a demonstration of adding a different product with different species, but we can allow for a product that's got 10 or more than that species. That's not a problem. And we said what is sold by, in this case, weight. And the logs, actually, they vary by volume. So I haven't entered a typical volume, but I said the typical weight is 100 kilos. And that's it. That is my product definition. Now let's go and have a look at my trading partners. Because I am an FMCOC, I'm not buying from anybody. I am just selling to, in this case, a sawmill called Tiago Sawmills Corporation. And related to my own internal systems, I've given them internal reference of CUST11. That is the important one when it comes to keeping track of these things. The name is just for me to be able to read and understand, make sense of when I'm looking at things. They've of course got this license code and certificate code. We need at least one of these in order to be able to identify the certificate holder, and I've labeled them as a customer. They have a valid certificate, hey, and they're registered in the blockchain. And we'll go and have a look at them in a little bit. Talking about this reference ID, actually, that reminds me, I didn't mention it on the product as well. I also give them an internal reference code, the product code. So that is, again, related to my own internal systems. And it means that when I upload data or download reports, I can then easily cross-reference it to whatever I've got in my ERP or accounting system or whatever it is that I use to keep track of the sales that I'm making. So that's what I need to do. And now I can make a sale. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to make a sale. When I do that, I have the option to do either a single upload, which is to use this web-based user interface, or a bulk upload, and that is uploading a spreadsheet. We'll come on to the spreadsheets later because they're quite important, and it's something that I imagine many of you will wanting to be using on a regular basis. For now, we are going to do a single sales transaction. So, first of all, we have to select our trading partner. We've only got one, so that one's quite easy. But of course, if we had more than one, then we'd have to go look for them. We have to put in the sales document ID. This is typically an invoice. So I'm going to put in invoice. I think I did 01 yesterday when I was preparing for this webinar. So we'll do 2 today. And let's say this invoice was done on Tuesday. So we need to remember that for later. And I'm going to be taking these logs from an internal batch I've got of batch, let's say for the 8th. Then I have to choose which product it is I'm selling. Again, I've only configured one, so it's nice and easy. When I select that, it pre-fills the information there. Indeed, I pre-fill it, I can't edit it. That's why you need to configure your products in advance. What I also do need to tell FSC Trace, though, is what type of sustainability claim am I making here. So this is FSC 100%. I'm an FM certificate holder, so that's what I sell. If I were selling mix, then I would have to put in a percentage claim here. And then how many logs am I going to sell? I think I'm going to sell 6 logs. So FSC Trace thinks, well, that probably is going to therefore weigh 600 kilos because we configured each log to weigh, in general, 100 kilos. But no log is identical. They're all a little bit different. And when I weigh these 6 logs, maybe the total comes to 612. So let me change that to 612. Right. When did I harvest these logs? I harvested them last week on Thursday and Thursday and Friday. There we go, Thursday and Friday. And I harvested them from a harvesting block. I already have one uploaded, but if I didn't, then I could click on this button. Takes me to a little option where I can upload my harvesting block. I won't bother doing that this time because it's the same block I harvested before. I can also choose to upload one or more relevant documents. I think that could be a good idea because my customer's quite keen to ensure that I'm following the law. So I want to send them my harvesting plan. Harvesting plan 1. If actually harvesting plans probably do have only a relevant date type, so I'm going to say this one. Oh, well, let's give it a date range of October. There we go. That didn't quite work. Done. Right. Version number 1, and my language is English. And now I'm going to upload that document. Right, here's my harvesting plan. Okay, upload that. I'm going to load it as tag it as this is related to concession agreement. So I'll tag it with that. Save it there. Okay. And now I can submit my transaction. There we go. Now, when we go back home to the dashboard, and let's take a little bit longer look at this dashboard. I have a few pieces of information showing here. First of all, I have my transaction volume, and that distinguishes between matched and unmatched transactions. Matched, if you've been following some of our previous webinars, a matched transaction is both when the seller and the buyer agree. And until they agree, it's unmatched. So the transaction I put in just now, this is unmatched because my counterparty hasn't put in any information. And that's why it's saying here that we're pending data from that counterparty. Here's a list of the logs that I sell. And down here at the bottom, we have a ledger of the various transactions I've done. That's just 2. So invoice 1 and now invoice 2. We can see that that one has matched. That's why it's got the green. And that one I did 50 logs. So it's a smaller transaction this time of just 6. Okay. So that is the first part of the transaction. That's coming from me as the FMCOC certificate holder. Let's go and have a look at what it looks like for the COC certificate holder. So at first glance, this looks almost the same, but it's a bit different. Firstly, we have product list that is now a bit longer because there's logs I buy, and then here's something I'm selling, dimensional lumber. When I refresh, we'll see the unmatched transaction in a moment, coming from the FMCOC, which is Juan Carlos Forest Products. And here's that same match transaction we saw earlier. So that's already in there with a credit for me. It was a debit for Juan Carlos, credit for me of 50 logs. So let's go and do that purchase. So let's do a purchase. We'll do, once again, a single upload. There we go. That's my supplier. We said invoice 02. Now, here's the thing. Actually, if I mistype this, so let's say I put in a capital O rather than the number 0, then that should not stop this matching because we don't actually match on the sales document ID because we know that these sorts of errors can happen. But the invoice date, I do have to agree. So we said it was Tuesday the 8th. That's very important. This is my own batch ID. This is the batch of, right, this has now come into my timber yard. So I'm going to give it batch 111. And here's the thing. Although it's the same product, for me, I configure it as logs I buy. So this is one of the things to see here, that we have a different product code, we have a different product name, but they have the same definition in terms of category and species. And that is what FSC Trace is matching on. But the product code and the product name, they of course will be different for each trading partner according to how that product looks to you. You don't have to agree on the same product code and product name. We do have to agree on claim type. I can't think that I'm buying FSC 100%, but my supplier is selling me controlled wood. We can't allow for that. And I have to put in the quantity. So I'm going to put in 6 logs. That's what we got. But when I weighed it, it came out a little bit different. So for me, actually, it came out at 611 kilos. I don't want to add any documents of my own, but let's now see whether this will match. Okay, that failed to upload, which is a little bit worrying. Let's try this again. Okay, this is slightly hung, so there are unfortunately a few bugs. Something is happening in the back end right now, unfortunately. This is quite embarrassing. Let me just check whether I think we have a new deployment coming on, which was not supposed to happen during this demo. That is quite embarrassing. Let me just try refreshing this page. Okay, it throws me back to login, so I can show you that. There we go. That's something I can show you. So let me go get my email address. And log in. Here we go. Okay, so that loaded and didn't error out. Let me try again. So we're doing a purchase, single upload. Here we go. Invoice 02, invoice date 8th. No, this is not loading. This is very frustrating. I'm going to try switching back to this window. So some other things that I can show you. We have implemented for everybody a sandbox mode, and I think this is quite important. So in sandbox mode, which we can tick up here, when you go into sandbox mode, we get nicely a lot of pink there. So you are definitely aware that you're in sandbox mode. When you're in sandbox mode, you can do transactions that don't go into the main database. And so it's basically your opportunity to test things out. So if I come into, we'll see if I'm able to make a sale. Let's go into single upload here. So it's got that. Yeah, it's got the products. Okay. So I can now do a practice sale to this. I also did one of these yesterday, so I'm going to do practice 2. I'm going to set it to today's invoice date. Batch 1, 2, 3. So it's the same product because we don't have any others. So when you're in sandbox mode, your trading partners are the same trading partners you normally have, and your products are the same products you normally have. You cannot do anything there. So we have those. If you want to change them for your testing, then unfortunately it also changes everything more broadly. But we assume you don't really want to test things that aren't your actual products and trading partners. But I can now put in a test transaction here. Let's put in 45 logs this time. We'll leave the weight unchanged, and we'll select our harvesting block, select our harvesting dates. We'll just say we did all this yesterday. Submit. Let's see. It's still failing to upload. Okay, we will have to check what's happened on our back end. This is frustrating now. One more thing I wanted to show you, and I can show you nonetheless, is our, here we go. Uh, so bulk uploads. Let me get rid of this, these windows so we can see this a little bit more clearly. So these bulk upload spreadsheets are available for you to download right now and to fill in right now. And these are ways which you can start to prepare your data to go into FSC Trace. So I filled this one out for our sawmill example. We can try it again in a moment, although if single transactions aren't going through, I don't think the multiple ones will go through either. But you can see in here, hopefully, the same kind of data that we had defined there. Perhaps let me just try going back to that window. Let me have a look. We go and have a look at our products. Yes, okay, that shows it. So if we have a look at this dimensional lumber, this is actually defined with a typical piece of lumber as being itself having a volume rather than weight, rather large, 2 cubic meters. Anyway, that doesn't matter. The important point here is that's what we've defined this product as. So then if we're going to do a sale of that product, we can configure a couple of sales here. I put in invoice date of Monday, given it a, so we can use the same document ID, by the way. So we'll say this is an invoice with 2 lines on it. We're calling bulk 3. That's the trading partner. Again, same trading partner. Product name. Now, I put in a different product name here, dim lumber, than here, which says dimensional lumber. And I'm allowed to do that because the important thing is, go back here. Yeah, I've got the product code defined here as matching what is in FSC Trace. So this is what you have to put in, and this is what matters. Product name is just for you to understand your own spreadsheet and kind of go, oh, yeah, this is the dimensional lumber one. We put in quantity and then the volume. And again, you can, this one I've said, okay, yeah, it's exactly 2. So 30 times 2 cubic meters is 60. But the second row I've said, well, it'll be 81 rather than 80. It's FSC 100%. And I've put it coming from these particular batches. So let's see if we're really lucky, this will work. So I will do a sale. I will do a bulk upload. I can download the template directly from FSC Trace. You can find it from the FSC Trace webpage on fsc.org. You can download, there's a zip file that brings you all of the different bulk upload files, including bulk uploading your products and your trading partners and stuff. But when you're in FSC Trace, you can download the template exactly according to you need it. If I click on this, you'll see, there we go, there's a template downloaded there. I'm going to upload a batch transaction. So there's that one I had before. Oh, I'm editing it, so I better stop editing it. Close it down. Open that. Okay, there it is. And let me attach a document. So I'm going to make the harvesting permit. No, hold on. This is, let's see what we've got in my little, this, we will do the bill of lading. There we go. One, select English, and we'll add a tag and say it's bill of lading. Right. Okay, save that. Right, continue. Ooh. So this is actually going pretty well now. So we had, you will recall, 2 lines in that spreadsheet. And when we import it into FSC Trace, it sees 2 lines and 0 that are bad. If it were bad, it would tell you what was bad. Here we see 2 valid lines. You click on them, you'll see the different information. So 30 and 40, 81. There we go. And we will do submit transaction. Okay. So that bit is working. That's marvelous. Okay, and now when we go to our home, in unmatched transactions, we should see, scroll down, I think it was today. Let's have a look at the full list. Maybe it was Monday, the date I put in. That was the date in the spreadsheet, yeah. So there we go. Those are those 2 sales. So we definitely encourage you to go off and look at those spreadsheets, and I hope that having seen this demo, it gives you a bit more of an idea about how you should fill them in, how you can use them. There is a help sheet in the zip file that talks you through how it all works, but I always appreciate that having a video of something to show is quite helpful as well. And I think that about concludes what we have to demo today. Sorry that 1 or 2 bits that we're hoping would work are not working this morning. And perhaps now we can open it up to questions. Julie, you're muted if you're trying to read off any questions.
Thank you, Steve. There are a number of questions in the chat, and thank you for everyone who's posted them. One of the top voted ones is around at what point does the polygon data be uploaded? Will it be uploaded? And they're also interested to know, will this not be mandatory?
Right, yes. Okay, so very good question. So you have a list of harvesting blocks that you have uploaded. Here's the one I did. I called it block 1, gave it a very interesting description, and you can see the first invoice date that it was used, and the last one also that it was used. So I guess only on 1 invoice so far. You can add as many as you like. It is not obligatory that you attach a harvesting block data to a transaction. That's it's not a requirement to use FSC Trace. And if you do, your customer cannot automatically see it. So you have to choose to share that particular data due to one outstanding bug we've got. I'm not able to demo that sharing of data for you today, but that just because you've attached it doesn't mean that the customer can see it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Associated to this, there are a number of people interested in understanding whether the EU Traces system is identical to FSC Traces, or would there be a need to fit in both systems?
That's a very good question. So our goal here is that you would not have to use EU Traces. If you choose to, then you can use FSC Trace to drive the EU Traces for you. So the EU have published details of an API That's short for application probing interface, and that's how two different computer systems talk to one another. So we are developing a mechanism to talk to the EU system. They've got one or two bugs on their side as well, so at the moment it's not fully working. But then once that is up and running, then you'll be able to submit your due diligence statement, which just takes data that's loaded in FSC Trace, and to submit that directly from within the FSC Trace interface. So there will be a button you can click that says submit my due diligence statement for me. I think the one thing that we will not do for you is that you will still need yourself to go and register on EU Traces. So what we'll say is you go off, register, get your unique details, then you input them into FSC Trace, and then we will use that when we are communicating on your behalf to EU Traces. Of course, importantly in all of this is that you, the certificate holder, the license holder, are in control. So we won't be submitting due diligence statements unless you tell the system to do so. Important that you're in control of what is sent, particularly as there are legal implications around this.
Thank you. The next highly upvoted question is around the input of more complex supply chains, such as paper, pulp, corrugated wood, and the multitude of the sources of raw materials that go into those. So how best to approach that using FSC Trace?
Right. So I guess at that point, you're putting yourself in the position of, let's say, a sawmill. And essentially what you need to do here is to list lots of trading partners. So you'll have a lot of suppliers if you're buying wood from multiple forests. So you just list all of them as they come into your yard. You will be able to record each of those purchases. What also don't have ready to demo to you today, but you will notice that when I did the purchase and sales, I was putting in batch details. Batch details are appropriate to that scenario showed earlier of the chair, because you you buy a whole chair leg, or you don't buy any chair legs, or you maybe buy multiple chair legs, but you don't buy half a chair leg. You never buy half a chair leg. You've either got one or you don't have any. And so it's what we call a discrete product, and therefore it typically, not always, but typically in manufacturing systems tracked in a discrete manner. So you received a batch of chair legs from your supplier, you use them all up, you buy some more, and that's a new batch. When it comes to something like paper and pulp, we know that a lot of these manufacturing operations operate in a much more continuous basis. They're not keeping direct track of exactly which delivery is used at any one time. And so there we're implementing a system, what we call continuous processing, that will allow the certificate holder to essentially just say, right, this is just all stuff coming in. And then when you do the processing run or sale and say, right, this is now the stuff I'm using, rather than selecting individual batches, you just say, any purchases I've made over a given date range, and you choose that date range, they will all be treated as having contributed without a particular volume being tracked, but contributed to that that production run. So that way you say, well, we don't know for certain, so we will perhaps go back even a whole year, because there might be one log right at the bottom of the pile that actually comes from that delivery a whole year ago, and the rest of them are only from a week ago, but we're not sure that there aren't any that don't even go back a year, so we'll allow for that long time period as defining all the inputs contributing to this particular batch of pulp or paper that we produced.
Thank you. So connected in some way to this is inputting data in terms of volume and complexity. So will Trace be interoperable with other systems such as SAP?
Yes, that is our goal. So we will be providing an API in the same way that the EU has done, so that you can drive our systems from your own systems. And if you are using a different tool, then perhaps to cover part of your business, then you could convert the data you get out of that and put it into FSC Trace, or the other way around, you convert some data you got from FSC Trace and put it into that. So the API will probably be the best mechanism to do that. But you can also use those bulk upload and download spreadsheets and do your own sort of spreadsheet manipulation. It's up to you. We also hope that in due course we will publish some reference implementation of use of this API and work with key partners, say perhaps at the forest management side, people like Trimble, who are already providing systems that many companies are using, and we can work with them to do a direct plugin. So there are ways that we will aim to make this as useful as possible, because we sure as hell do not expect you to be inputting individual transactions like I was doing today. Once you've learned how that single purchase, single sale works, you're going to at the very least be using the spreadsheets, and probably for the bigger companies wanting to drive this using the API system.
Thank you very much. Linked to the information collection, the sequencing of that, there's a highly voted question around, is it better to have suppliers input their transactions first and then the customer to respond? And linked to that, what if suppliers are not able to use, what if suppliers are not FSC certified?
Right. So taking the first one, that's very simple. It can be either the supplier or the customer who puts in the data first. What FSC Trace looks for is that data from both parties has been entered, and then if it matches on the critical fields or close enough on the volume or weight, then that is regarded as a match. So by the way, I was giving that example earlier of the sort of 612 kilos when it left the forest and 611 weighed when it entered the sawmill. That is within our, we have a plus minus 2% tolerance for those sorts of errors. So it doesn't matter who enters the data first, so long as it matches, then you will get a matched transaction. In terms of uncertified suppliers, FSC Trace is designed to support transactions of material that comes within the FSC ecosystem. So, of course, the best such material is the FSC 100%. That's what we demoed today. That's the easiest situation to handle. But there's a second category, and that is controlled wood. And then when you combine controlled wood with the FSC 100%, then of course you get the FSC mix. In the case of controlled wood, it is likely that your supplier is not FSC certified. There are very few cases of the CWFM certificates, but that's pretty rare. So we know that mostly the controlled wood enters our system via a chain of custody certificate holder who has a due diligence system for sourcing controlled materials. So if you have that within your certificate scope, then when you record a purchase, you can also record the harvesting block. So you can do that yourself. And so normally we say that's only the FMCOC certificate holder, but in this case also the chain of custody certificate holder can add that in. We're also actually considering allowing that kind of feature for people whose suppliers are certified but have chosen not to use FSC Trace. Of course, in any such situation, then that transaction will never be matched because the supplier is not an FSC Trace. It doesn't mean it's a bad transaction, it means it can't be matched.
Thank you. A further question about weight of the product. What if the FSC wood is only part of the product and the weight is the weight only the wooden part or the whole part of the product to be recorded?
That is an excellent question. As we have designed it, we're expecting you to enter the entire weight. One of the things, therefore, we've allowed for is that during the processing operation, which I'm showing today, the weight can go up because you might have a table with a wooden top and metal legs. So, yeah, the entire weight.
So in terms of collecting information, a number of those listening have been interested in how do we get the GIS data. So if EUDR requires the polygons, but FSC don't require someone to upload it, how will I as a producer get the land polygon? And will there be any support from FSC to at a local level, so from network partners, to encourage certified forests to upload it?
Yes, so this is a challenge, I think, that I hope for the most part there are existing solutions for. So we have not attempted to solve it here. There are quite a lot of tools out there that you can use to map your forests and to map your harvesting blocks. And so it's the responsibility of the forest manager to get that data and to upload it to FSC Trace or to provide it to their customers, excuse me. Yeah, so that's, I think, does that answer that question, or is there a bit of it I missed out?
No, I think that's sufficient. And providing that you're okay with your voice to carry on, another question here around when will FSC Trace be open for all users? We had additional questions around the availability of Trace for promotional license holders also, so it's probably worth expanding on that a little.
Yeah, yeah, I'll try and keep going. As you can tell, I'm getting to the limits of what I can manage this morning. So we are expecting to release FSC Trace in November to a limited number of certificate holders before that. And then through November, sort of increasing numbers, and hopefully for everybody by end of November. Because now the European Commission have announced that there is likely to be this postponement of EUDR coming into force, we're feeling under a little bit less time pressure than we were before. So if we see critical quality issues like the back end going offline, as happened in today's demo, then we will hold that release back because there's no point putting a bad product out there. But we are still feeling reasonably optimistic that we will get this out to everybody in November, and that will include promotional license holders as well.
Thank you. I think perhaps we have time for just one more, which is related to the collection of the geospatial information. There's a question that's interested to know whether will FSC, using the new digital tools, check the provided geolocation?
Yes, we will do some basic checks. So if you're an FM COC certificate holder, then you will have the opportunity to upload your total certified area. We have a tool that was recently launched to do that, and we will encourage you to upload that area before you start uploading any harvesting blocks, because then once that is uploaded, then we can check any harvesting blocks and check that they fall inside that, so we can look for sort of annoying little errors. Here it's possible that you perhaps include the wrong projection file information, things like that, and that can throw off this GIS processing in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. So we'll do those sorts of checks. And if the part or all of the harvesting block falls outside the certified area, then we'll reject it. We will also look at controlled wood whether the harvesting block falls inside the declared country. So if you say you're harvesting in Germany, but this harvesting block falls in France, then we'll say we don't think we can accept that. So that is some basic checks that we will do. That will be the limit of what we will do at the point where it's uploaded into FSC Trace. Of course, if it's an FSC certificate holder certified forest, then we're already confident that this forest is being well managed and is deforestation free and free of forest degradation as well.
Okay, I'm mindful of the fact that you're losing your voice. We do have a couple of minutes left. Do you feel that you want to take a further question, or is it appropriate to pause here?
I can do one more.
Okay, I think this one nicely links to the one that you've just answered, which is the EUDR requires that relevant companies have extensive risk assessments so that risk mitigation is applied. Does FSC Trace also have such a feature?
No, it's not within FSC Trace itself. Let me, if I can just try and bring back up. Okay, I need to switch this. No, wrong one. We'll do it from here. So this slide, so you would upload your risk assessment into the risk hub, and then that would be the risk assessment for the FM certificate holder, and then we'll be able to link that certificate holder's risk assessment to any sales and then pass that downstream for downstream customers to use in their own due diligence reporting. So that's the goal. So not within FSC Trace itself, but absolutely within the FSC digital landscape.
Okay, thank you for that. And then just finally on that point, with the GIS and the risk hub, are FSC intending to make those paid services for license holders?
Sorry about that. The basic services intention is that these will be free, particularly if you have chosen to also adopt the new FSC regulatory module for alignment with the EUDR and other forthcoming regulations around the world. You've done that, filing of the risk assessment in the risk hub, I expect should be free, as should be the basic operation of FSC Trace, but we are contemplating making some premium features chargeable. Exactly what those will be is yet to be defined. We need to make sure we've understood our market, and we want to price things in a way that is within people's capabilities. This is not intended as a big profit center for us, but these systems also will not be so cheap to run. So we want to make sure that we've covered our costs. So we will be introducing some costs at some point for premium features, and we want to be transparent about that. We don't want to say now everything will be free and then sort of say, as my 5-year-old son will say, we tricked you, and then start charging later. So there are going to be some elements of this which will be chargeable in future, but the basic operation, if you're a small certificate holder, should stay free.
Thank you, Steve. And I think it's probably appropriate here to pause. We will publish answers to the questions on our frequently asked questions on the website, the link to which was placed in the chat earlier. So previous webinars and questions that were asked are already published there for you to review also. Thank you.
Here's the URL for everybody one last time. And with that, yeah, thank you and goodbye.